think legacy, not only do I think about leaving my mark, but I think generational. I think multi-generational. When I hear the word legacy, I think something that stands the test of time.
Hello, everyone. Dondre Homer here. Welcome to the DHomerRealEstate podcast, where the focus is to make real estate, personal finance, and self-development digestible, fun, and relatable to everyone. I would truly appreciate it if you like, comment, subscribe, download, write a review, tell your aunties, your uncles, your brothers, your cousins, your sisters, anybody that will find this information useful to them. Today, we have an amazing guest, special, someone who I appreciate so much, someone who is off the top of my head. When I could think of this individual, I think of a few words like genuine, authentic, loving, caring, someone who is passionate about what they do. And just watching them truly inspires me to keep on pushing and take those same characteristics and apply it to my business. She is a mother, she is a wife, she is a business owner, and she's here to talk and drop some gems. And the person I'm talking about is Billie-Jane Bolton. How are you doing?
My heart is busting. What a beautiful intro. My heart is singing. Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here with you.
Awesome. Thank you. So before we get into the meat of the podcast, I start off with icebreaker questions. Now it's only 3 questions, so you don't have to worry about
I'm like, I should be scared.
But yeah, just for the audience to get to know you a little bit more as well as myself as well. So the first icebreaker question is,
okay,
what was your favorite TV show or movie as a kid?
Okay, you know what? I didn't watch a lot of TV, honestly. I didn't watch a lot of TV, and I've got such short memory. I can't remember the movies, but I really did enjoy watching, like the kids' cartoons, things like, I loved watching like Transformers. And I also loved watching the show with, they were lions, Lion-O. Basically, I think the lions came together and they created one big, robot kind of creature. Wow. The name escapes me. Do you know the show?
I'm not.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I think they even had a remake. Oh my gosh, the name will come to me later. Okay. But yeah, just remember Lion-O. Search up Lion-O. So I love that. And then when it came to like real shows, like I loved watching the Cosby Show. When I'd watch, we'd all sit together as a family around the TV and watch the Huxtables, right? So I definitely did love that as a kid.
Awesome. I'm definitely gonna look into that. I never really watched the Cosbys, but I know that show was a pivotal in the black community.
Absolutely. Sure. And how we see ourselves and who we could be,
Absolutely. Now, the second question is pretty, I'm curious to know what your answer is to this. If you were famous, what would you want to be famous for?
And you know what? It's the work that I do. So I'd want to, to be known for all of the families and the kids. And in particular, to my heart is the kids that I have touched. I would love for people to sit down and be like, yeah, Billie-Jane helped me and she helped me. And like everybody is talking about how I have been instrumental in, the direction that their lives have taken, especially as kids, so yeah, that would be kind of cool. I would love that to be the case.
That is beautiful. That's beautiful. And I'm sure that you're definitely on your way for that as well.
That gives me purpose, honestly. That keeps me plugging along because the journey, and as as your experience, the journey is real. Yep. Okay. And so, keeping my mind on that, on the impact on the lives, the kids. I envision a whole bunch of kids saying, wow, like they're not kids anymore, but knowing that I had been able to touch their lives in some way.
Beautiful. I love it. Now, the final question is a little bit more not too, it's serious, but not too serious. What was the biggest lesson you've learned these past couple of years going through the pandemic? I'd love to hear, your side of this. Biggest lesson.
Well, I found that the pandemic is one that really just illuminates all of the areas in our lives that we've neglected. It just puts it right there in your face. I don't think anything new kind of came out of it. It just really highlighted, put a spotlight on the different areas of our lives that we've neglected, whether it's our health, whether it's our relationship, whether it's our financial position. It just really did make that clear. And I hope that we come out because, we are a people in general, right? Humanity is one that gets comfortable. So we feel that pressure through this whole crazy pandemic and okay, I got to make this change. I got to make that change. And then we get back into a new state of complacency and normal. And we forget all of those lessons learned. My hope is that we keep those in mind and we make changes that we'll continue outside of the pandemic. Right. But yeah, that's a big thing, I mean, so much. That's why you see people like, they're getting together on Zoom and they never were together before, to rebuild relationships. People are like paying off debts because now they're not spending as much and now they're seeing, oh my goodness, I can tackle this, right? It just, oh, I'm in this difficult position because I got too much debt. You know what I mean? Like it just really highlights all of the things. Our health, we're now like, realizing that when our health is not strong, we're easily compromised, right? By health things, right? So yeah, that's really what this pandemic taught me.
No, absolutely. Again, I completely agree. It definitely highlighted so much and it allowed me and like my family to just like reflect on, okay, what needs to be done, right? And it's good. I believe that I hope that people took this time to reflect because it's very important. And again, rebuild relationships. That is something that I believe I hope a lot of people have done as well. So that was the icebreaker questions, and
that was fun.
I want to thank you for answering them so genuinely. But now I want to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself to the listeners and the viewers.
Yes. Oh my gosh. This is the first podcast that I've been on.
Oh,
so
wow.
This is really, really cool. So my name, I am the person, the woman of many names, Billie-Jane Bolton Rojo. And Billie-Jane, my dad's name was Billy. It's Billie-Jane, not Jean, although I danced to it. Okay, I danced to Billie-Jane, but it's Billie-Jane. My dad's name was Billy, so that's how I ended up being Billie-Jane. He thought he was having a boy. He had a girl. He said, I still need to have my name in there, so Billie-Jane. And then my maiden name is Bolton, and then I married. My husband is Latino, and his name is Rojo, so that's how, it became Bolton Rojo. Honestly, if I had to do it again, I might just go with Rojo, right? Just have reduce the number of hyphens. So anyway, so that's my name. My background, and I don't know if you stream and the podcast at all, but if it's just listeners, I am wearing a West African outfit. We call it a bubu. And so I decided, in honor of Black History Month, let me come dressed. So my family is from Ghana, West Africa. I wasn't born there. I was actually born in England and came here very young. So, I do cherish my heritage. And my heritage is, and my background has a lot to do with why I've decided to sort of pursue my career, right? But as Dondre mentioned, I'm a mom. I'm the mom of 3 kids ranging in age from 12 to 18, soon to be 19, which is crazy. 12 and then 16 and almost 19. And yeah, I'm a wife as well and business owner.
Awesome.
I went through and, in deciding to pursue my career, which is really in helping families. I'm really passionate about legacy. And I start with, doing that through our kids. It was really, brought on because of my grandmother. And, reflecting on her own legacy. And because my family, I came here when I was very young. My parents, they didn't teach me the language. And so I had language barrier with grandma. And so I didn't get to hear about her amazing life and all of the lessons she wanted to teach, because her English was very limited. She was not formally educated. She was born in the 1900s, probably went to grade 4 or grade 5 schooling, and really grew up spending her time in the market, and was very successful as a businesswoman as herself. And she was a mom of 10 kids and a wife and amazing service. Like, she was a phenomenal woman, but I didn't know about her until she passed, just because we didn't have, we had language barriers. So she couldn't tell me her own stories in her own words and her words of wisdom. And so it was when, when she passed, and I went back to Ghana with my daughter for the funeral. That's when I learned about the rich legacy that she left.
Yeah.
And it just challenged me to think about, what am I doing with this legacy? She's left this beautiful, beautiful gift for us. What am I doing to make sure that that continues on? Right. And it just challenged me to reflect on that. And I had to be honest with myself. At that time, I was working corporate, and it was not a 9 to 5, it was more like 7 to 7. And I was, working really hard, not feeling really, cranked about what I was doing. Like, I was just, I was doing the work, and I have work ethic, so I was doing good work, but wasn't really excited about the work. And I was working so much as well. So I'm like, how am I there for my kids to help them to step into their purpose and their passion, and to continue the legacy of greatness that she had left us? So that was the moment where I really took a step back and started to reflect on whether I needed to make a change. And so after much reflection and trying to figure out what the path was, I decided to do that. And I started to help families in an area that I was in the same journey, right? I had my younger kids, and I started my career. It felt really small, but just helping families to save for their kids, right? Because I get it. I'm saving for my kids as well. And I just have this deep passion that I want our kids to express all of themselves in their fullness, no judgment, no barrier, no limitation, no lack. I want them to be able to step out in every unique gift that they've been given in their fullest. And so that's how I started my career, in helping families in that way, to help to educate their kids to be preparing for that next step, right? As they hone their skills and pursue their own journeys to greatness. So that's where my career started, in helping families with registered education savings plans, which is a product here in Canada to help families to save for their kids and their kids' education. And the government helps families to do that. And then I also expanded my offering to include insurance, where now I don't just talk about creating a future for your kids, but I talk about protecting this amazing legacy that you're creating, safeguarding your future, creating a hedge. I like to call it a hedge of protection, right? Around your family. So that's sort of the areas that I've been working in. And I honestly, regardless of the ups and downs of this journey, my heart's still in it. I still want to persevere. I still want to press.
That's beautiful.
So,
I love that. Was an amazing introduction, by the way.
Thank you for allowing me to share.
Again,
love to share about grandma.
I want to make sure that my guests have the opportunity to share that, right? Because the listeners and the viewers, because it is viewed, so people are going to see that beautiful dress that you have on and everything.
Yes, all of this work was not for naught. Yes, awesome.
Yeah. So again, today we are going to talk about legacy. I'm happy that you truly introduced legacy, and you are the owner of the PCAL Financial Group, which stands for Partnership in Creating a Legacy. So I know it is perfect. You are the perfect person to talk to. Now, you did touch on a little bit about your background and where you came from, but how we got connected really showed me the importance of networking. And I was able to get to know you, and you were able to get to know me a little bit more. But I guess coming from England at a young age, I'm curious to know, like, how was your childhood like? How was your childhood like? And where in I guess Ontario or Canada did you actually grow up from?
Yeah. So when we came to Toronto, and we were in I guess it's considered East York, but I lived in Flemington Park. I don't know if any of the listeners know Flemo. That is where I grew up, in the Don Mills and Eglinton area. And, that is where I grew up. But my family was we were very, the nuclear family, the parents and the kids. It was just us. We didn't have much extended family. Everyone was back home or in other countries. And my parents were very much to themselves. So we weren't very active in the community. So yes, this opportunity for us to get out and network, like that was so awesome to meet you and Janelle when, we were at that symposium, right? That was awesome. But that's not something that my parents did. So I didn't have, like, I talk about not having language, right? I didn't really have a lot of the culture in terms of other people, in terms of community, because it was just us, right? Now I had the culture in terms of food. My parents spoke to each other in the language. There's a lot of I still have a lot. It's crazy as time goes on. People are like, oh my gosh, Billie-Jane, you're getting more and more African, because I see all of the mannerisms of my mom and the and I carry all of those things, right? But I didn't have community, right? Like in terms of the Ghanaian community here in Canada. So it was really just us. But I grew up, in a strict home. My dad, education, it was paramount. Okay. Education is of the utmost importance. So he was educating us from a very young age. I remember I was well advanced in the area he focused on me. And it's very interesting. I think he probably could see where the giftings were between, let's say, me and my sister. For me, he focused so much on the maths. So that's what I excelled in. And I love math. That's why I love working with numbers, right? So I love the math. And I actually even pursued engineering. Okay. Now, my sister, on the other hand, she's very linguistic, and I don't know, he was reading with her like crazy, and she's an incredible writer, and and just brilliant, but more on the languages, right? So it's very interesting how our parents know us, right? But so he was very focused on education, but he didn't know a lot about what was here. Okay. He didn't know about opportunities that were here. I even see things like, for instance, like French immersion. There was French immersion back in my time. Not many schools offered it, but my parents didn't know anything about it. You know what I mean? And my parents also didn't know anything about education savings. My dad was a huge saver. My dad is super conservative. Okay. All right. Super. He'd rather the money under the mattress. Okay. And I'm like, Daddy, you're losing money. Okay. But super conservative. And, didn't know anything about saving for education. He was a saver, but not specifically for education, and what opportunities were there, until somebody, came and knocked on the door. And by that time I was 12 and came and told him, did you know that there's this product that you could invest in your kids? And my dad, I don't think the guy had to finish his sentence. My dad was like, where do I sign? Because that was the important thing to him. So I grew up always knowing that post-secondary was not an option. That was honestly my next step. I had no idea of anything else, And so, it's really powerful about what we can do, what we can instill in our kids in terms of setting the expectation for what we expect of them. It becomes their expectation. You know what I mean? But my neighborhood was a tough one, but we were very insulated. As I said, we were pretty much to ourselves, but still very active, at school. I ran track. That's my thing. So I love athletes. I'm always, so, passionate. I'm like, all of the gifts are fantastic. So, track was my thing. I was a sprinter. And then also music. I played the piano. I played classical piano. So did that, and so, I really do have to give my dad credit for the work he did in really instilling, a spirit of excellence in the work that we do, and a real focus on education and discipline and things like that. So I just sort of, all of those external things that he gave to us became internal, and then I would push myself, and I just sort of continued that. And then when I went off to post-secondary, I continued to do track. My parents wouldn't allow me to do it train,
Okay.
but once I went to university, man, I went away from school. I'm like, I gotta fly this coop. And when I went, I ran track and I loved it. So for all of you athletes out there, and you don't think, let's say, you don't get an athletic scholarship, whatever, it doesn't matter. When you go to post-secondary and if the school has a team, participate. It is so great to have something else outside of school. So that was sort of me sort of growing up. My music ended in high school, didn't continue that on, still there. Because when you asked about being famous, maybe next another chapter after what I do, maybe I could get back to music.
Right. It's never too late.
Never too late. Never too late.
I love that. And I kind of want to get back into your grandmother as well as that.
Yes.
Your father as well, because you had the opportunity to go back and see what your grandmother has left for you, and then going to your father now, you're able to see him be able to see this product at 12 years old. You probably don't even know what it is at that time, but I would love to know, like, what was your introduction to legacy building? Like, was it a conversation that was had, or was it something that you just observed?
Such a good question. Okay, so to my grandmother, as I said, I didn't know much about her, right? About her life, until, as I said, they put this beautiful book together about her life. And I learned, and it's so hard. I don't know if I can, because I've got this, background. I don't know if you're able to see grandma. Probably not.
Probably.
I don't know if you could. Yeah. Did you see her?
Yeah, I can see her. Yes.
That's grandma.
Wow.
And so incredible woman. And through learning about her life, I learned quite a bit about legacy. And when I talk legacy, it's not about money. It's not just money. That's part of it. When I think legacy, I think about leaving my mark. I was here. I think legacy is the spirit of excellence, the spirit of service. In her case, the spirit of motherhood, of being a wife, being the best that you can be and leaving your mark. And you know what? She left a significant mark on her community. Wow. The amount of people, I'm telling you, well over 1,000 people came to this funeral. Oh, wow. Those are just a fraction of the lives that she had touched. So that's her service. And then, of course, financial. She was a businesswoman and a successful one. I had no idea that she used to make she used to sell scarves, African scarves, and then textiles, and then went on to sell, more merchandise and what do you call it? When you sell milk and things, I can't remember the word. There's a term that you call for all of these sort of small items. She would sell that, almost like a convenience store, but not quite, more than that. She would sell that. And then she had properties. She had residential property. She had commercial property, so she was an incredible business. So she also left a legacy of entrepreneurship and, and wealth building. Wow. So she left that as well. She and my grandfather at the time were, part of equipping Kwame Nkrumah to rise to power and seize back independence for Ghana. This is the legacy that she left. And I had no idea. And so you get something like that. What are you going to do with that? And each of us have our own legacy. Each of us have the mark that we need to leave on this world. But my passion is for our kids to be able to continue that. And for them to do that, we need to be operating in our gifts, in our purpose, because that's how we can leave our best mark, So she taught me, I'm, whenever I reflect, I'm sad that we had the language barrier, but just in finding out about her life, she taught me so much about being a mom. She was a mom to 10 and more, 10 she birthed, but so many people from different villages would come and she would take care of them and send their kids to school and all of this, and then, as I said, a wife, because she was a wife, and then also, service. She was so active in her church community. She did so much for the church community. Wow. And just in general for the community, and, so much in business, entrepreneurship. She was successful that they actually made her like a queen, right? For for her area, so she was incredible. incredible. And so she was an incredible example for me. And that is the passion that has been instilled in me to continue legacy, to leave her mark. And how can I, not in leaving my mark and helping my kids to leave their marks, how can I also help other families and other children leave their mark?
That is, wow. I'm actually speechless. Like, that is amazing to know that, you know, where you come from and what your grandmother left, and the fact that you didn't even know, and then to find that out, I can only imagine, you know, how you felt to find, like, whoa, this is the
Look
amount
at this woman.
First of all, a funeral of 1,000 people.
Oh, yes. And
that's
all levels.
and that's barely scratching the surface.
Yeah, seriously, of
that is
all the lives she's touched.
honestly mind blowing. And you said something, because you said something that really, really hit me. Because in the past few years, there has been a huge increase of entrepreneurship, and the word legacy has been thrown out from everywhere, right? And especially from the younger crowd, everyone's, you know, leave a legacy. It's all about legacy. But 9 times out of 10, based off of their tone and their language, it looks like it's only structured on money. But you said no. How do you leave your mark? And that right there, that hits me so much more than money can bring.
Yeah.
How do you bring your mark? How do you leave your mark?
Yeah.
Right. So that,
Yeah.
I want to thank you for actually sharing that. But I'm curious to know, like, why do you think it has become a lot more popular now, this word legacy? Why do you feel like in this day and age that the word legacy has come up so much?
That's such a good question, you know, and I was reflecting on that. And, you know, maybe it's that we're trying to, you know, people are thinking a little bit more long lasting. When I think legacy, not only do I think about leaving my mark, but I think generational. I think multi-generational. When I hear the word legacy, I think something that stands the test of time. So I think that we're starting to become more aware of the importance of things standing more the test of time. Now, it's true, you're right. People think a lot financially. But yeah, for me, legacy goes beyond that. Definitely, I want my money. I want my finances. I want the wealth that I'm building to live beyond me. So I want that going to my children. I want my children passing that on to their children. Like, I want it expanding from generation to generation and continuing to pass down. Definitely. But legacy for me is so much more expansive than that. It is, as I said, leaving your mark, right? It is, I was here. Yeah. People knowing that I was here and I made a difference and I touched somebody, and that touch will affect generations to come. You know, we never realize about how every decision, every action is actually a generational one. Right. Yep. So, you know, just sort of being aware of that. But yeah, I think that, you know, we are thinking, and especially as a community, starting to think beyond just the today. Yep. Will make the word legacy very attractive, because that is a long-lasting, multi-generational term, you know, of success and power that you see sort of continuing on, outliving you. Right. So I would say that is the reason why it's a word that we are embracing so much. But yeah, for me, it is, as I said, it's more than just simply the money. And for me, like, honestly, I am not even really driven so much by the money. While it's important, we got to keep body and soul together. Okay. It's important, but that is not my motivation. You know, my motivation really is in serving. You know, I want to serve like my grandma served, and I want to work in excellence. I want to give the best of myself, you know, as she did, you know, because it was her excellence that took her across the seas. Like, you know, companies would invite her. And as I said, grandma was very modestly educated. She did not have English, yet she was invited to England. She was invited to Denmark to go and look at these factories that are making some of these textiles. Because she was so successful. They wanted her to see what they do in hopes that that would help to also help to, you know, help her to expand her commerce. You know what I mean? But it was excellence that provided that opportunity to her. So we need to work and live in excellence, right? So yeah.
Man, I can tell this is amazing already. I'm just so happy. I can end this interview right now, and everything, I just feel like people will be impacted. But moving forward, you specialize in helping individuals and families create a knowledge legacy.
Yes.
Education and RESPs. You also help them create again, as you said, you mentioned a hedge of protection around their legacies using insurance. I would love for you to break down exactly what is knowledge, legacy, and RESPs.
Yes. Okay. So that's kind of a term that I coined. Okay. Knowledge legacy, because, as I said, like, all of this was inspired by my grandma and reflection of her life and everything. And as I thought about it and I started to think, okay, again, like, what's my mark? What's my legacy? Well, you know what? Honestly, first and foremost, it starts with my kids, right? And how am I equipping them to know more than me? Because the whole thing about our, as people is we are always trying to better the opportunities for the next generation, right? We always want our kids to outperform us, to excel beyond us, to have more success. That's our hope. That's our dream. And when I think of knowledge, I want my kids to know more than me, not just necessarily in my craft per se, but I want them to know more than me in their craft. I want that knowledge to constantly be expanding. So it's so important for me to identify my kids' gift, to embrace their gifts, whatever they may be, and to position them to take that gift, that talent that they have, and expand their knowledge on that so that they can step out in excellence in that gift. So that's the knowledge legacy. I want to, again, leaving a mark of knowing more, of having more wisdom in their area of gifting.
Absolutely.
So that's where I coined knowledge legacy. And that's why the RESP is so powerful to support that. So I am not, listen, as I mentioned, my family's from Ghana, West Africa, and, they care about the initials after your name. You got to be a doctor, okay? Or you've got to be a lawyer, all right, to be considered highly valuable. Unfortunately, and I'm sure it's not just within my culture, I know for sure in West Indian families, same thing. They want you to be a doctor, lawyer. That means success.
Yep.
But I sort of push back on that. One, from my own experience, when I told my parents that I was going to study engineering, because I always said I was going to do medicine. Yep. When I told my parents I was going to study engineering, my mom was like, what? You're going to do engineering and not doctor? Like, as if that was like, I was decided to go into the slum. And then when I decided, okay, mom, I'm not going to pursue engineering. I'm going into the financial field. Like, what are you doing? Wow. So the thing is, of course, after time goes on, she sees, the value of all of these different things. But this is not unusual for so many families where their parents value certain gifts over others. They see certain things more as successful than others. And I have such a passion for allowing our kids to express every gift. Like my faith is, my faith is Christianity. So I do look at things through that lens. And when I think of God and when he, crafted us, with it, or wove us together in our mother's womb, and he decided which gifts he was going to implant. I don't think he said, this is more important than that. This gift has no value. No, I think he took time and attention and purpose for each gift he instilled in us. So maybe not everyone is designed to be a doctor or a lawyer. Maybe you've got the gift of speaking. Maybe you've got the gift of art. Maybe you've got the gift of knowing your body, that you are an athlete or a dancer. Or maybe your gift is to be able to communicate with people. Like, you've got a real way to communicate with people. Or maybe your gift is a soft heart, that you know how to care for people. Like, God gives so many different gifts. Absolutely. So my thing is that, because definitely within my culture, they move kids away from some of those other gifts that they don't value as highly as things that have the initials, like you're a pharmacist, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, and they do value engineering as well, right? But if you're not in those areas, then somehow the gift is not as valued. So I believe that we need to identify, like, be open to what our kids' gifts are, what they're showing us, embrace everything about it, and then help them to be excellent excellent in that gift. And to be excellent in that gift, they need to push their knowledge of this gift and seek the skills and the training to hone that. And with the education savings plan, it helps to provide money to support that for kids to continue that learning beyond high school, right? So they can really step out in excellence, because the only way I think that we can be successful is to hone those gifts. Nothing gets better just, on its own. We need training to hone that gift, and the training looks different for everybody. And so the RESP is awesome in that it helps parents to save so that their kids can pursue the schooling that'll support their gift. And the government helps families to save because the government has grants associated with that. So it's a really powerful way to help kids to pursue their best selves and eliminate or minimize, at least, if we can't fully eliminate, but minimize financial barrier, because there are so many kids who come out of school heavily burdened by debt. And when they start their lives off already behind the 8 ball, how are they going to continue a financial legacy when they're already starting behind? So how can we help our kids to step out as their best selves, equipped as their best selves, but eliminate as many financial barriers as possible so that they can come out of that a step ahead to be able to pursue that with boldness and ferocity and fearlessness, because they're not concerned. They're willing to take risks because they're not concerned about, oh, I've got $50,000 worth of debt, I need to get a job to pay that off. Instead of taking a risk, go and open a gallery if you want to, go and start that business if you want to, go and pursue this particular gift that you want to do. You want to be a dancer, take a risk, take a chance on yourself, go do it, because you don't worry that I've got to pay off all of these debts. So I've got to make short-term decisions that are really interfering with who they're destined to be.
Wow. Let's take a moment aside. Now, in all seriousness, now I know for sure there's probably some people that are hearing this and be like, wow, that sounds all awesome, that sounds fine and dandy, but as you mentioned, post-secondary schooling can be expensive, right? And that can be a challenge. So what strategies can you give young parents in general and families to help them create a knowledge legacy?
A knowledge legacy. Yes, say it.
As well as fund the RESPs, because again, it's expensive, but what strategies can you give those people?
Absolutely. And good question. And you know what? Ideally, the best thing is to start early. Okay. It is so much easier to achieve any goal if you start early. But no matter what, my position is start where you are. Be like my dad. They came knocking at 12. He didn't say, oh, woe is me. Why didn't I know about this before? He said, okay, let's get started today. Right? He only had 5-6 years to save. Let's get started today. You know what I mean? So I always encourage families to start where you are. Okay. Start as early as you can. Start where you are and just start an amount that is manageable. I do not want my family's concerned that the lights are going to be put out because they're doing this amazing thing for their kids. Absolutely. Start with an amount that is manageable, but I do encourage you to stretch a little bit, even if you're a little bit uncomfortable, right? That's not a bad thing, because, you do need a little bit of sacrifice to push and to expand. Okay. So it's okay to do a little bit more, but start at an amount that is manageable. $25 a month. Just get started. Okay. Because ultimately the amount doesn't even make that huge a difference. It's the impact of having money aside that is going to make an impact to your child. My dad, he started when I was 12. And I chose to go away to school. I was going to need 40,000. This is I'm dating myself. This is 20 years ago. Okay. And, over 20 years ago. And, that time going away to school was going to cost $40,000 for 4 years. It was about 10 grand a year. Wow. My dad didn't save $40,000 for me. And I insisted on going away. Right. He only had 10. But because I had the awareness that there is this money for me, and he told me every day, Billie-Jane, there's this money, study, don't worry, go to school, study, go to school, that kind of thing, that I knew this money was there. So then I was like, okay, For me, my non-negotiable next step was I'm pursuing post-secondary.
Yeah.
This is how much school's going to cost, and I'm going to go. So guess what? I'm going to find a way to fill the gap. So that's my word of encouragement to parents. Don't say, I'm not going to bother to start because I don't have enough. Do what you can. By doing something, you have changed the trajectory of your child's future, because your child will now think, this is an opportunity for me. How can I fill the gap? And you know how I filled the gap? I used a whole bunch of strategies. I was able to apply for OSAP. I took advantage of OSAP. I worked every summer. I didn't work while I was in school, but I worked every summer. I didn't get a rinky-dink job, okay? I made sure that I was applying for jobs in the February, March kind of area. I was looking to the company my mom was working for. I was looking for all sorts of opportunities where I can make decent income, okay? So encourage your kids. They can work during the summer between school, save up a whole heap of money to help to pay for school. Scholarships.
Wow.
Take advantage of scholarships, okay? Scholarships are not just for kids who get 90 plus, which is great.
Yep.
But there are different scholarships out there for different areas of expertise, or different areas, let's say, different communities, different areas of passion. Maybe, as I said, if it's music, if it's arts, there are organizations that create scholarships for certain areas or certain demographics. There's opportunities. People's workplaces offer scholarships. Take advantage of scholarships. I applied for quite a few scholarships and was able to use that. And with that, I pretty much funded my education with the RESP, which made a huge difference, because guess what? I didn't have to find $10,000, right? Because my dad made that decision to start where he was at an amount that was manageable, be consistent and diligent. And by the time I was ready to go to school, that little sum was there to help me to pursue education. So that's my message for families. I don't want you to think, oh, there's no point. I don't have money. I'm not going to bother. Or my child's too old. Give them something, and you will see how creative, how opportunities will come, because their mind has shifted to what the opportunities are available. Opportunities will come to them that they can seize, and there are people who are out there who can help, right? OSAP, as I said, is an opportunity. And you know what? The OSAP program offers free money as well. Like, there's a grant portion that you don't have to pay back. So you can take advantage of that and say, okay, let me position myself. My child can position him or herself to take advantage of the grant and pay back the rest of the loan portion. Do you know what I mean? There are so many things. So I want to really be provide a word of encouragement that it is possible. Anything is possible. And what's great here in Canada is that the government will even start, for families whose income is really modest, the government will start it for you, even if you can't save anything to start, right? The government will start for you. And they've got a program called a Canada Learning Bond, where they can give up to $2,000 to families right now. I guess if their income is below about $47,000 after tax, their kids can qualify for this. And you don't have to save. Just have to qualify based on income, and the government will start. But most of my families who start here don't end here, because I'm on them. I'm reminding them, you can save a little bit more. You got a little more to top up, so you can do a little something, right? So I want to always encourage my young families. I know it's hard to, it's so expensive nowadays in life. And when you've got children, childcare, and all of these costs, and right now we're in a time where there's so much sort of uncertainty and everything like that. I get the concerns and thinking, I can't prioritize this. I've got to prioritize just getting food on the table. But if you can put away even $25 a month, really, come on, we can do $25.
Absolutely. That's
like $1 a day.
Yep. That's also two McChicken combos.
Look at that. Look, right? Holy, McDonald's is getting expensive and their food is getting smaller and smaller, but you're absolutely right. So that is my word of encouragement to a young family, because I know it's hard when we're just starting out. We're just starting in our careers. We may be coming out of school with a whole heap of debt, right? Yep. How do we position our kids that we don't pass that on to them? How do we position our kids that that's not the legacy we're passing on to them, that they come out of school comfortable with the heavy weight of debt? We do not want anyone comfortable with that. We want us to be, I need to get rid of this. No, that's what our kids need to have, not to start their lives already comfortable with debt, because they just got that out of school trying to pursue their passions, right? So that's the thing, but it is possible. It is possible. Start where you are, start an amount that is manageable, and you will see how that amount will start to grow, and it'll make a difference in your child's mind. And that return outweighs any interest rate you can get.
Yes. See, one thing that stood out is, again, what I get from this conversation is it's having the conversation as a child and their parents. I feel like, when these, like, the fact that your father was saying, okay, hey, I put money away, I didn't keep it a secret. Hey, here is what I'm doing. Yes, this is what I have, but it then encouraged you to be like, okay, wow, it's non-negotiable. I'm going to post-secondary school. I'm going to do whatever I need to do, because, like, and I think when these conversations are had, it then it opens up, the doors for us as young, well, when I was a kid, to be like, be a lot more engaged and to be like, all right, cool, I'm a part of this, instead of people just
Exactly. And can I say one thing too, that just sort of actually blew my mind when I thought about this? And this is sort of, because I'm very multi-generational, and the multi-generational impact of decisions. My dad started saving for me. Let's see what happens here in a generation. My dad started saving for me, and he started, when I was 12, he did what he could, right? And so it contributed 25% towards my education. So for me, my focus when I was going to post-secondary was, how do I fill the gap? Okay. I'm looking for, as I said, I'm looking for opportunities to find resources to help fill the gap. Now, because he had done that, I was immediately aware when I had my daughter. And my husband also, his dad saved for him as well. So my husband was also aware of this RESP thing.
Yes.
So when we had our daughter, we didn't understand this RESP thing, but we knew we had one. We both used it to go to school. And my dad saved for one company. And so as soon as I had my daughter, I was their easiest sale. I called them. I'm like, I just had a baby. Can somebody come and help me to start this thing for my daughter? Wow. I didn't understand it. I didn't know a thing about it, but my dad did it for me, so I must do it for my daughter.
Yep.
And so now let's fast forward. My daughter is 18 now. My daughter's mindset right now, because we got started ahead, we were able to do more because my dad positioned me, because he gave me a start. He positioned me to pursue my education. I came out of school and I was blessed that I was able to secure a reasonable, like a, fairly good job, both my husband and myself. So we could do more for we were able to start when she was an infant, and we were able to save a bit more than he was able to save. So she was positioned to not have 25% of her education covered. She has 100% of her education covered. And her mindset right now is not, how do I fill the gap? Her mindset now is, how can I keep that money and invest it? Wow. So that I can go to school for free. She's thinking, I'm like showing her, we're talking about how can we take this money and leverage it? And how about you get some property? We get student housing, have some students live with you by your second or your third year. Start. Do you see how, think about it.
Mindset.
From my grandfather, from her grandfather, saving 25%.
Yep.
How that has multiplied beyond any interest rate. Because what happened to my daughter now, her thinking has expanded way more than mine. So what is the home and the opportunity and the thinking she going to provide for my grandchildren? This is what I'm talking about, multi-generational, and it goes beyond just money. It is opportunity, it is excellence, it is service, it's doing good. How are we expanding from generation to generation? How are we leaving our mark? And with each generation, I hope that each generation can do more, can leave a bigger mark, can touch more people. And because of my own experience and feeling, kind of constrained on what I could do outside of the normal academics, my dad encouraged piano, but they did not encourage track. Okay. I am much more open to that. So I've got my son who insists on playing this hockey thing. Okay. And we support that. And he's thinking about, oh, maybe I can actually do this. My youngest guy's a little artist, and we embrace it. He calls himself an artist.
That's beautiful.
You know what I mean? So what can he do with that? So that's why my heart is so much in, as parents, let's keep our eyes open for all of those amazing little gifts we see in them. Don't squash any of them. They're all valued. And how can we support them and honing and developing that gift? And we need them to get trained. I don't care what it is. Some people are not so much into traditional education. That's fine. What education does your child? Because I refuse to accept that we don't need any schooling. We need something. Otherwise, we will not achieve excellence. We all need somebody to push us to learn more, expose us to more, teach us more in our craft, right? And so that's the thing. So yeah, I just had to share that, just the power of my dad's decision, what impact it made 2 generations down.
Multiplied, absolutely. And your last statement of you believe that everyone needs extra education. Actually, before I get into that, I want to it is so important for parents to hear this, because again, your child has different gifts. I think I heard a quote or heard something from a friend of mine where it's like, everyone is different, right? And you can't expect everyone to do the same thing. It's like asking a monkey, a fish, a cat, and a dog to climb that tree. Who can climb up the tree the fastest? It's impossible for the fish to do it, and the cat, dog, whatever the case may be, right? So
yeah.
So it's like everyone has their own gifts, their own talents that they specialize in, and it's important for parents to really see it and encourage it. And the fact that I hear that and embrace it, because again, you encourage that in your kids, and again, it gives your children the opportunity to be like, you know what, if mom and dad thinks I believe I can do this, I can do it. Exactly. Like Allen Iverson is one of my favorite basketball players, and he said that his mom was the one who said that you're gonna be the best, and he said because my mom said I was the best, no one else can tell me anything else.
Tell them anything different, right? Like I don't care what you say. No, seriously, that is yes, I love that.
Absolutely. I love that. So, and I'm sure there are a few common questions that I have had in conversations, and I would love to get your experience. I think you touched on one of them that was in my mind. But one of the questions is, what happens to my money if my child decides that post-secondary education isn't for them and want to go? So let's say I saved up $60,000. What happens to my grants, benefits, and everything that I've saved?
Good question. Well, first of all, let me just correct that. Like, just for those of you, those Canadians who are interested in our RESP, the most we can save of our own money is $50,000. But then you've got growth and grants. So then your plan may be worth much, much, much more. So I just want to clarify that the most that we can save of our own money is $50,000 over, by the time our kids are ready to pursue post-secondary. Okay. But there are so many options. There was a time when the RESP was really restrictive, okay? Like you could only do university or college, and that was it, okay? If you didn't do that, you lose your money. Okay?
Oh, wow.
Nowadays, it is so much more expensive in terms of what opportunities your kids can pursue, okay? So a lot of kids can pursue some type of schooling. Honestly, if my child told me that they weren't going to pursue anything, that would distress me. They don't have to do university. They don't have to do college, but you have to do something. I want to know that you are excelling, that you are taking your craft and you are taking it to the next level, and you cannot do it on your own. Like, it doesn't just plop in here. I mean, I know King Solomon got a whole heap of wisdom from God, but that doesn't happen to a whole lot of us. Most of us have to learn through others, right? Yeah. So you need to get some type of education. So that would be my first thing. But at the end of the day, our kids make the decisions for themselves, right? Yeah. We can do the best. It's up to them to listen. And if they choose not to, do you know what? You can actually transfer. If you've got more kids, you can transfer it to your next child. The only thing is that, remember I mentioned that the government will give money? The most the government will give is $7,200 to a child, okay? And that's over time, never at one time, okay? So the most you can get is $7,200. So you can transfer the grants to your kids up to $7,200. Anything over and above that would go back to the government. But know that everything else you can transfer to subsequent kids. All right. So it's not lost if you've got other kids within the family. If there's nobody to give this money to, it's still not all lost. Okay. Now, if no one is going to school, the government is going to take the grant back. Why? And let's be real. It's fair. The government is given this money as incentive and encouragement for kids to go pursue post-secondary.
Free.
This is our tax dollars. Honestly, it's our tax dollars, because whatever the government's giving came from us. So it's our tax dollars that we're investing into our kids to pursue post-secondary. And if they're not going to give it, that's not just a gift, just to hang on to. So if you're not pursuing some type of post-secondary, and they can do so much, university, college, trade schools, technical schools, distance learning, correspondence learning, even part-time studies, they can use it. If, for those of us who are in Quebec, they've got this program called CEGIP, which is like pre-university. You can use your RESP in that, okay? So lots and lots of opportunities here in Canada, anywhere around the world, kids can pursue something. But if they choose not to, then the government's going to take that $7,200 grant or whatever amount of grant had gone into the plan. They'll take that back. But guess what? The rest of the money is yours. Okay, so the money that you saved, let's say you saved 50,000 of your own money, that's your own after tax dollars. It's yours. You don't lose it. It's your money. Okay, and it's not taxed because you saved it after tax. So it's not taxable, right? That's your money. The interest, that is, because interest is growth. Your money made money. So whenever money makes money or we make money, we owe taxes. Within the RESP, it's been growing without being taxed because it's for the purpose of education. And that growth is supposed to go to our kids who will be at a low tax bracket. Okay. But if we take it, because we can cash it out, that growth, the government's not going to penalize us. They say, here, you can take it, but it's taxable now because it's income in your hands. So we've got to be prepared for that. So there's a 20% tax that has to be remitted to the government and then a tax receipt. But if you don't want to pay that tax, and most people don't, throw it into your RSP, retirement savings. You can take that interest, put into your retirement savings, and it can continue to grow without being taxed until you're retired and now at a lower, hopefully lower tax bracket at retirement, and can take the money then. Okay. So lots of opportunities. It really is a win-win. And you know what? Parents can even use the RESP. The only thing is grant only goes to the kids. Okay. So if you wanted to use the RESP, you wanted to take advantage of that, you can, and keep that in and use that interest. Like for school, you don't have to use it in an RSP. If you're using it for school, you can do that as well, but only in an individual RESP. I should mention that. Family RESPs, you cannot do that. It has to go to kids, but individual RESPs, you can use it yourself to go to school. Okay. But the grant, as I said, the grant would go back
to the government. Oh, wow. So that's great to know.
Yes. Win-win, win-win. Create a future for your kids. If they choose not to listen to you, and some kids don't, if they choose not to listen to you, then you can put it towards your own future. But when you decide to put it towards your own future, we do have to wait till our kids are 21. The government says, wait till they're 21, or if you started late in the RESP, let the plan sit there at least for 10 years, like from when you started, right? Just to give them a chance to figure themselves out before we give up on them. Yeah. After that point, then you're free to do that.
Okay, that's amazing. That's amazing. So now I want to get the second question I have now is, like, what do you say to parents who say that they don't need an RESP, instead that they will invest their own money themselves, wait until their child is 18, 19, 20, or whatever age, and then give them a lump sum because they think that they can get a larger return themselves.
For sure. For sure. And that is a common thing, and you know what? Everyone does need to assess their own, like when you make an investment decision, you have to assess your own profile, right? Your comfort with risk, your own knowledge about investments. Everyone because there are people who are very knowledgeable about investments, okay? And they want to manage it themselves, and that's fair, okay? The thing is for me, and some people are like, you know what, I want to use real estate. I don't even want to, like, I'd rather buy property for my kids and use the equity to send them to school. So, there are different ways that you can do it. But my thing is that this is government money coming to you. Like, my whole thing is, like, where else can you, because the way the government program works is that the government is giving you 20% on your savings up to a total of 7,200 over time. Okay. So 20% of your savings, I think the most that they will put in is $500 a year. Okay. Unless you are catching up, then you can get $1,000 a year, which is a whole other conversation. But, you can get 500, which is a 20% top up of $2,500. Okay. So you can save up to that. All right. And beyond, but they will only top up that first 20%. Where else can you get for sure, 20% on your money? Not a whole lot of places. Because if you're expecting 20%, you better expect negative 20%. You have to expect risk The higher the return, you've got to expect risk. There's that risk return balance. Okay. This is a for sure 20% you're getting from the government on your money. Why would you turn that down? So I do encourage families who are more savvy, who want to explore other strategies to save, whether it's, other investments or real estate or anything. I'm not going to say don't do it, but I would encourage you sort of like not having all your eggs in one basket. Put a little bit into the RESP and get it for sure 20%. And it's not just 20% because the investment is growing as well. So you can add an additional percentage on top of that. But even if your money makes nothing, okay, at least you got 20%, which you could not have gotten anywhere else, at least with peace of mind, knowing that you're getting it. Okay. So that's the thing that I would encourage families to consider, right? Let's get that money. It's for our kids, get it for them. And you know what? And I like to share family strategies, especially we talked about young families, like, how am I going to make this happen? So many different strategies. There's a Canada Child Benefit where the government gives you some money to help raise your children. That's government money. Take some of that government money, get more government money, grow without being taxed. Smart way to use that money. Okay. Gifts. Birthday gifts, holiday gifts. Dondre, you heard from me. It's Christmas. You guys, think about any Christmas present. Start thinking about putting it in for the RESP. Take advantage of other people's money. The bank of grandma and grandpa, if they love to give money to the kids, take some of it. If I did that for my daughter, my dad would come over and give them about $50 a month spread out. If I just took half, not all, just half, she would have $6,000 more in her RESP today.
Yeah.
Right. So the strategies, take advantage of some of these strategies. But I totally understand for those of us who want to explore other strategies for saving, you can do that, but I wouldn't suggest do all of it. Take advantage of that 20%. Don't leave government. My position is don't leave government money on the table. Right. I'm like, don't. They're making this money. And listen, other people are taking it. Yeah. Why not your child? So that's the thing.
Okay, that's great and very commendable. I definitely understand that for sure. Again, not putting everything in one basket, right? Where people believe, okay, real estate, because again, the market goes up and down, up and down, up and down. So you just don't know. But again, like you mentioned, it's a guaranteed 20%. Now, my final question with the common questions is now, as I mentioned earlier, there has been a huge spike of entrepreneurs and people looking to starting to look down on the traditional ways of school. So, it's just a lot of people have turned down the traditional ways of school, and they believe that the school of YouTube and Google is more prominent. What do you say to those individuals who are against traditional school systems and just believe that they can learn whatever they want on Google and YouTube?
Yeah. So, I don't really discourage anything. We all have to be open-minded and flexible in our thinking in terms of the different ways to cut a nut, right? So there is a wealth of information on YouTube and Google University, okay? There is. But, when we're talking about young children and you are yet to discover, the package of gifts that lies within, we have no idea who they will become. You don't know if that little girl, that little boy is going to be a doctor. Maybe she will. Remember I said, it's not, I don't assign value to that, but what if that's who they have been purposed to be? What if they have been purposed to be the pharmacist or the engineer, the more traditional?
Yeah.
Don't close the door to who they may be. Because if that's who they are going to be or who they feel in their heart, that's what they want to pursue. It'd be great to know that there's some money for them to do that if that's the direction they want to go, right? Not everyone is to be an entrepreneur. Yeah. Not everyone is to be, I like to say, a David, like King David in the marketplace. Not everyone is that, right? Our society requires so many different gifts and talents and expertise. Otherwise, we wouldn't function. Yeah. And so, the thing is, we need to be open. Just as I say, don't just think doctor, don't just think entrepreneur, right? The entrepreneur, I think entrepreneurship is amazing when you take control of your own destiny. Yeah. But even still, let's say somebody chooses to, go into the trades. I would still encourage them, start your business, go into the trades and maybe start your trades business.
Yeah.
But how are you going to do that unless you were honed in how to be a tradesman?
Yeah.
Or if you decided, I don't want to do the trades, I just want to run a business and I'll hire tradespeople. Having some learning about how to run business may help. And you may not get all of that from Google University or YouTube, right? So, but I'm not to say, because I know that learning is changing. The whole landscape around education is changing. So many more resources are available online, right? Yep. So not to say that is not the way to go. But the thing is, when we're young, when our children are young and we don't know who this little child will be, don't limit the opportunities because you've closed the door to this. And now you've got a financial burden if your child insists they want to go a path that requires a certain type of post-secondary that you hadn't planned for.
Got you. I love that. I love that. And again, it's when our children are so small, like for example, I use my son, for example, I don't know what he would be. I'm assuming a musician, I'm assuming football player. Like I have no idea.
It's true.
And then I'm thinking that, but then he might become a doctor. He might become a lawyer. I don't right. But it's making sure I don't close that door. And again, having these conversations with you has definitely opened my mind into understanding, hey, you know what, there's possibilities that he may need this, right? So
that's right. Keep the opportunity open and don't leave government money on the table if you can help it, right?
Absolutely. Now time is well.
Wow, it is gone.
Right. But I do have one I want to touch on insurance, because again, there's importance in it. And again, you want to create a hedge. Can you briefly touch on the importance of insurance?
How do I be brief? You know what? Like, seriously, I would be more than happy to come back and talk more about it because, there is so much to share, but I'm so happy for the opportunity to share a few pearls. The way I look at, I say a hedge of protection, because, it actually got, I got some awareness about this. And again, coming from my Christian faith and sort of biblical principles was, learning about, the story, how the Israelites, they were exiled and they were in Babylon, right? And then they were leaving Babylon to go back to Israel. But what's the first thing that got created before they went? God sent the prophet Nehemiah to build the wall. Before anyone came back, they needed to have their protection. They need to have a wall of protection around them before they would go back and build up. Wow. So that's the first thing. So when you look at the hierarchy of financial priorities, first thing, get your cash flow right, because you can't do anything if you can't keep the money, right? If you're making money and it's all gone, you don't know where it's gone, then you cannot do anything. So it's managing your cash flow. Get a handle on the cash flow. That's the first priority when you talk about the priorities towards your financial dreams. The stage 2 is hedge of protection. Stage 2 is insurance. How is insurance a hedge of protection? Insurance is preparing for the unexpected. Now, when you expect things, you should prepare for it. You expect your children to go to education, to pursue some type of education. So what do? You prepare, start saving for them, right? You want to buy a house. How do you prepare? Start saving for it. Like when you know things are coming up the pipe, you prepare, you start to save, you prepare for that. But what about all those unexpected things in life? How do you prepare for that? We can't. We may not have everything ready in time, right? So that's where insurance comes in, to be that hedge of protection, to be that safety net in case you don't have it all ready and it's taken you by surprise, that you got hurt. People always think that, if I pass away, yes, that's a big thing. But your likelihood of passing away prematurely, like 4 or 5%. But the likelihood of getting sick, the likelihood of getting hurt, that you can't work and continue to bring income into your family is like, 17, 20, 30% even. Okay. Much higher risk. So having a hedge of protection where insurance will help to give you some money during that hard time is prudent. Because if the unexpected were to happen and you're standing there without any safety net, all the work that you've been working towards, saving for education, preparing for home ownership, all of that goes down the toilet.
Yeah.
It's all gone. So that's why stage 2 is to protect before you build.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, again, we are going to wrap up, and I have
Yes.
just one last question. And before before the episode and at the end of every episode, I always say
Yes.
the DHomer Real Estate podcast is focuses on making real estate, personal finance, and self-development digestible, fun, and relatable to everyone. Miss Billie-Jane, I have one last question. What advice can you give a young couple starting a family and looking to start on the right path to creating a legacy for their children and their children's children?
I love that. I love that. So, when we're talking, financial, right? Is start to let's get reprioritized, right? And I just touched a bit on that, right? In terms of the priority on how we manage our dollars and cents.
Absolutely.
So taking care of the cash flow, making sure that we are managing what is coming in, that we are not overspending, because it's so easy, right? It's so easy to buy things because we think, oh, next week I'll get paid and I'll pay it off.
Yeah.
I don't want my families trading their tomorrow for today, because
Mm,
that's what you're doing. When you are robbing the future of the resources that have yet to come because you've already allocated to past spending, you
yeah.
know, get a wrangle on the cash flow. That's the biggest thing. That's a lesson that we all need to work on. Honestly, you will find people, I don't care what the income level is, everyone needs to manage with good stewards what's coming in.
Yeah.
And then once you've got that, oh my goodness, then you're well positioned to do all of those other things, to protect your family, to invest in their education, to do all of that. But have a place of contentment and where you are at, that helps you to be able to do those things, right? So that's my biggest thing, to be able to manage your cash flow, because we get in so much trouble, when we aren't, and it's so easy. And if you're in that state, do not feel that you are alone. Be brave, take a look at it and address it, right? And there are people who can help you to address it, because that's a big weighty thing when we feel like we're overextended.
Mhm.
Before you get into that struggle, get that, I like to call it a spending plan, get that in order.
Mhm.
And if you find that you are in trouble, don't be at a loss. Like, you can get help. There are
Yeah.
things you can do. It's never too late to wrangle things in. So that's a big thing that I would suggest for my families as they get started in their journey, just to let's go first things first. Let's make sure that we're managing what we have.
Yes. Yeah. Guys, I hope you guys really took some notes, got your pen and paper ready, and be able to really just absorb all the information and all the gems that Billie-Jane was able to drop. That is the end of our podcast. Do you have any socials that you would like to drop? Anything?
Oh my goodness, for sure. For sure, for sure, for sure. Yes. So I've got my own website, which is pcalfinancialgroup.ca. I'm on Facebook, PCAL Financial Group, which is PCAL, Partnership in Creating a Legacy, PCAL Financial Group. And then also on Instagram, PCAL Financial Group. Those are really the main platforms that you will find some of my content.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'll definitely make sure to have that into the description where people can come and check you out as well.
Yay!
Guys, thank you for tuning into the DHomer Real Estate Podcast. You can catch the podcast on all streaming platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio,
Cool.
everywhere, as well as you can watch the visuals on YouTube. You can also follow the Instagram at the DHomer Real Estate Podcast, as well as follow my socials on DHomer Real Estate, as well as TikTok, DHomer Real Estate as well.
What? I need to be talking to you to help me with my social. Did you hear all of that, people?
Honestly,
Dondre, you're not playing around.
I owe a lot to my wife, Lenage Branding, so that I will definitely hook you up.
I'm gonna hit her up, man.
Will do. But guys, thank you for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Stay blessed and take care. Bye.
Bye.